arms from the world. Go out into the world as masters. The moment you feel, I don't need anything from this transaction, you meet a person and you don't need anything from it. You don't want anything. There's nothing that you want. Automatically it puts you in a superior position. But you go meet a person, say, I want something from this person. You are putting yourself in an inferior position. This is what it is. So you weigh the pros and cons. You weigh the various options available to you and you decide. 11.
Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreya paramavapsyatha.
Infuse the devas, gods, with this, and may those devas inspire you. Inspiring one another, you will gain the highest good. If you remember, Arjuna starts in the first 2 verses by saying, tell me one definite path by which I may gain Shreyaha, spiritual development. Now he answers, he says, infuse the devas, gods. You see, in Vedanta, when the word deva, which means God, is used in singular, it means the absolute state of perfection, Atman, Brahman, the state of God realization. The same word used in plural, devaha or devan as he says it here, means he brings it down to the relative. It means relative ideals, but which are higher than your selfish interests. There are 2 ideals that you can have, 2 goals that you can have. One is the absolute goal of self-realization or God realization. But that goal very few people can identify with, very few people can have the clarity of fixing that as the goal. So if he had mentioned only the singular absolute goal, the rest of us would be blanked out. So therefore, he accommodates everyone by saying Devan, plural, which is any ideal other than, higher than your selfish, self-centered interest, but which is still within the purview of the world, which could be, like for instance, people are working for less privileged people. There are some who work for the organization, some who work for creating wealth in the nation, some work for building the brand image of the country. Various ideals you could have. People who work for handicapped children, etc. All that comes within the purview of Devan. So he says, infuse the Devas with this. With this means what? Sacrifice, yajna. And the Devas will nourish you, inspire you, fulfill you. This is what we meant. When you work dedicatedly for a higher ideal, that ideal will nourish you, will nurture you, will take care of you. Your desires for wealth, for things of the world will automatically get fulfilled. Thus inspiring one another, parasparam, a mutual benefit. Development can never be in isolation. It's always got to be mutual. Parasparam bhavayantaha, thus inspiring one another, you will gain the highest good. What he means is, you start with a certain desire, certain ideal. As you work towards that ideal, what happens is the ideal itself shifts. Say for instance, you're working for the welfare of your organization. As you're working dedicatedly for the organization, you understand it's a very limited goal. Let me think in terms of the industry at large. That's what's happening in automobile component manufacture. One organization got the Deming Prize, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in manufacturing. Having got that prize for quality, what they did was they helped other automobile component manufacturers to upgrade their quality, the quality of their product, so that now, so I think 5 or 6 other companies have got this Deming Prize. An outstanding feat that has not been matched by any country other than Japan. This prize was got only by either the US or Japan. So this is what it is. As you work dedicatedly for your organization, and you achieve success, then you spread it to include the entire manufacturing sector perhaps. And then you rise still further to work for the nation. And you rise still further, say, why should I limit my attention only to the nation? Let me work for humanity. And thus, until you get to the highest, which is the Shreya. That's how you get there. So if you can't visualize realization, doesn't matter. Fix a higher ideal. Something beyond your selfish interests. That's enough. And then follow it up with work. Dedicated, hard work. Sooner or later you'll get to Shreya, is what Krishna is saying. 12.
Ishtan bhogan hi vo devaha dasyante yajna bhavitaha tairdattana pradayebhyaha yo bhunte stena eva saha.
Infused with yajna, sacrifice, the devas, gods, will give you the desired enjoyments. One who enjoys their gifts without offering to them is a thief. Strong language he's using here. So verses 10, 11 and the first line of verse 12 are basically saying the same thing except in grammatically different ways. Why does he say that? Because he's emphasizing, whenever there is repetition in the scriptures, he means to emphasize the importance of yajna. And since we, ignorant as we are, don't understand the importance, he needs to keep repeating it. So infused with yajna, the devas will give you the desired enjoyments. And in the second line, he gives what happens to a tamasic person. You remember we saw the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. He starts with the lowest. Why? Easier to understand. One who enjoys their gifts without offering to them is a thief. This is a definition of a tamasic person. You might say, oh, I don't belong to this category. I'm not a thief. But if you stop and think, every one of us will come to the shocking conclusion that yes, somewhere down the line, somewhere in our lives, we fall under this category. What is this category? Every one of us is blessed with so many things that the world, nature, that divine power has provided to us. Have we paid for it? We enjoy these gifts. What are we enjoying? We're enjoying eyesight. We're enjoying hearing, with or without hearing it. We're enjoying the use of our limbs. We're enjoying oxygen. This is in the absolute. In the relative, this country has provided us with certain basic law and order, however much garbled it may be. Even with all the ills that are there, at least there has been enough peace in this country that you and I and our children can go to school properly, can go to university properly. There are other countries where there is so much violence, so much fighting, so much killing, that children are, there are cases in Lebanon, for instance, they had 17 years of war. And when we had gone there was a 16-year-old girl who had never known what it is to go to school. We owe it to the country that we have enjoyed this peace. Are you aware of it? Are you repaying? One who enjoys the gift without having offered to them is a thief. Right? Our family members, our parents, our spouses, our children, our relationships, we are enjoying, they are giving to us. Don't say, oh no, my parents didn't give me anything. They have given. You've enjoyed it. Have you given back? It's not that you must maintain accounts of what you've received and what you've given. It's a question of, it's all too subtle. So in other words, what he's saying is, if you are not conscious of what you have received in life, never mind repaying, you can never repay. If you are not conscious of what you have received and if you are not grateful for it, you belong to this category. And all of us belong to this category. So, one who enjoys their gifts without offering to them is a thief. This is the tamasic person. So, just to briefly recap for the benefit of those who were not present yesterday, the three categories are: tamas is a state of indolence, lethargy, inertia, indifference, apathy. It's a state where you have tremendous capabilities, but it's as if the engine is switched off, nothing is happening. Rajas is a state where you've overcome that inertia, you're performing desire-ridden, passion-driven activities, but which lead to agitated minds because of the selfishness. And this agitation of the mind leads to improper thinking, inefficient action, and therefore failure. This is like trying to function with an engine, with an equipment that is not tuned properly. So it's like the mic we had yesterday. If you want to know what Rajas is, it's that. Sattva is the state of serenity. And that serenity, the peace of mind, comes from yajna, living a life of sacrifice, living a life of giving, living a life that is based on repaying for what you have received in life. Selflessness. This is a state of empowerment. A person with a tranquil mind is a powerful person. And it's only a sattvic individual. It's only in the state of sattva that you can use all your resources to the maximum and gain success in the world, but you're not interested in it. What you're interested in is that which is beyond the world. This is definition of sattva. So in this verse, verse 12, he has only, second line, he has only given us what a tamasic person is. The rajasic and sattvic individual, he tells us in the next verse, 13.
Yajna santaha muchyante sarvakilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagham papaha ye pachantyatma karanat.
The righteous people, the virtuous people, enjoying the remains of yajna, sacrifice, are liberated of all sin. Sinners who cook for themselves, pachanti atma karanat, they eat sin. He puts it in a complicated way, but it's very simple. What he's saying is, the rajasic people, they cook for themselves, means they act for selfish purposes. And such people, they eat sin. They don't eat food, they eat sin. It's so true. A rajasic person, a selfish person, you look around, most people are running around performing desire-ridden activities with a selfish motive. They're working hard. But what happens? They are not able to enjoy the fruits of their own labor. They earn a lot of money perhaps, but they're not able to enjoy the wealth that they acquire. Not one aspect of that wealth are they able to enjoy. They live in palatial homes, particularly in the United States. You have huge mansions, you have a private lake, you have yachts, you have all kinds of facilities. But the person who owns it, the person who has worked for it, earned the money, is never able to even take a walk to that lake and enjoy it. Why? Because he is totally stressed out, totally occupied with what? Earning more money. 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, it's crazy lifestyles they have. And they believe that sometime, okay, I'll set aside time to enjoy my wealth. But that never happens. Somebody else enjoys the wealth. They cook, pachanti, atma karanat, for their own sake. But they eat sin. Sinners. Such people are sinners. Rajasic people, all of them in one clean sweep. He has categorized all of us as sinners. Sinners, because sin, it's not that he has put us down as sinners. Sin simply means mental agitations. When you perform an action and that action boomerangs back on you, what is left behind as a result of that action is mental agitations, then it is sin. Whereas the righteous people, the sattvic people, what do? This is a brilliant construction. He says they enjoy the remains of sacrifice. Yajna shishtaha is a technical term which means prasad, holy food. That which remains as a result of the yajna, sacrifice. It's a technical term. It's considered holy because it elevates you, it gives you success, it gives you happiness, it gives you spiritual development. Most importantly, it gives you spiritual development. So in modern terminology, what is yajna shishtaha? It's profit after tax. There is a custom of performing what is known as bhuta yajna. There are different kinds of services that a person is supposed to perform. When you perform yajna or before eating the prasad, you are supposed to set aside food. Prasad is usually food. Set aside food for 3 categories of people. Number 1, beggars. Number 2, Brahmins. Number 3, birds. Traditionally. Beggars signifies, this doesn't mean please, don't go looking for beggars to give food to. It simply means you must be aware of the fact that you belong to the privileged class, and there must be an attempt to reach out for those who and look after those who are less privileged. This is the meaning of beggar. Second, Brahmins. Brahmins doesn't mean you look for a person who, I believe there are Brahmins who they make it their profession to go and eat. It's not that. Brahmin simply means highly sattvic individual. Intellectual capital of the country must be nurtured, nourished, looked after. This is one outstanding quality that there is in the United States. Anybody with merit, anybody with the intellectual ability, whether it is a scientist or a musician or whatever it be, is encouraged, is given all the facilities that he needs to go ahead in life. Are we doing that? Are we doing means don't look for government to do it. Is each one of us doing it? If we don't have the intellectual capability, at least we must sustain the intellectual capital, maintain the custodians of spiritual wealth in this country. If we don't do that, who suffers? We suffer. Spiritual people don't need support. They don't need endorsements. They don't need sponsorship. But it is we who will suffer because in the olden days they understood the value of custodians of spirituality. That value you need to have. And birds, environment. Be conscious of environment. Don't pollute it. Don't destroy it. So the virtuous enjoying, yajna shishtaha. It's a beautiful term. Selfish activity, actions driven by desire and ego are self-destructive. They enervate you. Whatever little energy you have goes away. That's why we all feel tired coming back after a full day's work. Some of us feel tired doing nothing also. What makes us tired is not the physical activity, but the selfishness that drives the activity. You shift from that to an unselfish ideal, work for something beyond your selfish interests, and there's a tremendous energy that is generated within your system, which again you redeploy for the higher cause. And when you get to selfless action, the third category of action, it's extremely fulfilling, very, very energetic, dynamic. All of nature functions in the spirit of yajna, which is selfless action, where you don't look for a return for yourself, nor are you looking for doing service to any particular category of people, because you understand that you can't do service. Really speaking, none of us can do service for anybody. There is a higher power, there is that divine entity that has created the world, which is more than capable of taking care of the world. That divine power doesn't need your help or my help to take care of the world. But then, as long as you're living, you must act. And how do you act? In a worshipful attitude. Just do what you ought to do. A peacock dances in the jungle, not because it wants a fee for it, nor does it want appreciation from the audience. It doesn't even want an audience. The peacock dances because it has the ability to dance, and it dances. It gives joy to itself and to others, the whole world. But when it comes to human dancers, you ruin it by desire for name, fame, position, wealth, etc. You ruin it with ego. A koel sings, not because it wants something out of it, not because it wants even to give joy to others. It sings because it has this capability of singing, and it sings till the day it dies. No ifs and buts, no whats and hows. Just do what you ought to do. Niyatam kuru karmatvam, and see what a difference it makes in our life. Thank you.